sound decisions and eventually become financially resilient. Numerous stakeholders in Zambia have been commemorating Financial Literacy Week since 2012. So today actually marks the 10th anniversary. The main target so far has been university students, high school students, and the general public, I suppose, through various activities. This year's Financial Literacy Week will run from the 21st to the 27th of March under the theme Build Your Future, Be Money Smart. See, this is good because for me, it's very progressive in the sense that it captures the importance of thinking about your own future and how your financial decisions are impacting you as an individual. I also like that it's very forward thinking and encourages you to interrogate your own financial health. So, knowing that young women have unique financial needs, Financial Sector Deepening Zambia, Fsdz, have thought that this program will be able to show today, as part of Financial Literacy Week, a way that we can tackle some of these challenges. I didn't mention in the beginning that we are live on Hot FM and Diamond TV. So I'd like to encourage our listeners and our viewers to tag a friend on their social media pages who will be interested in listening to our very strong panel today, and throw in a hashtag there, hashtag FLW2022, as well as hashtag Break the Bias. So let me just introduce our panel, very strong women. I feel very privileged to be in front of you today. I only really hear of you guys on TV, so it's good to see you in the studio today. We have Betty Wilkinson from Fsdz Zambia. She is the CEO. We also have Nachilala Nkombo, who is the country director for Worldwide Fund for Nature Zambia. We also have Colonel Mwizukanji Namwawa, who is the deputy director for the Zambia Army Legal Branch, as well as the executive director for an amazing movement called Push Women. What does Push stand for?
Push stands for pray until something happens.
Love it. Love it. And of course, myself, the moderator, Kalonde Mungomba. I am the manager in charge of strategy and corporate risk at the Zambia Information and Communications Technologies Authority, otherwise known as ZICTA. Later on, we'll be joined by a special guest who will be giving us a different perspective from our CEOs. And I just ask you to stay tuned because she'll be also challenging them in addressing some of the issues that they do in their day-to-day jobs. So to start the conversation, today's obviously a very important day because it's not only part of the lead up to Financial Literacy Week, it is International Women's Day. So a great day to be a woman, right? But before we delve into that, I would just like to ask the ladies to introduce themselves, and I sort of urge you to be quite personal because I know that some of our listeners and our viewers are interested to know who you are beyond the CEO tag. Betty, do you want to go first?
Sure, and thank you. I think that your childhood and the way you grew up affects the way you think about money. My father was a banker. He was also blind. So the family read to him from the time I was a child on his banking papers, and that's how I ended up becoming an economist and someone who is very passionate about finance. My mom also encouraged us from a very early age to take our pocket money and start saving a bit of it. And that's what enabled me to be a successful woman financially and also a successful woman in terms of encouraging other women. Thanks.
Love it.
Okay, so this is Nachilala. Like Betty, I trained as an economist, but I'm a very passionate conservationist because I believe that if we do not take care of our natural environment well, we actually would not have a future, a sustainable and secure future. So apart from leading WWF, what else do I do? One of the jobs that I love is that I'm a mother of two. And one of the things that I enjoy when I'm not doing work is spending time with the two kids, whether it's supporting them with learning activity from school or them teaching me what the latest music is on the Zambian music scene, or doing gardening with them, or maybe just swimming with them, or enjoying some pieces of art. I also spend quite a bit of time getting involved in different causes, whether it's a cause around supporting the mentorship of young people to become ready to build their careers, or it's an issue around managing waste or security in my neighborhood. So it's such a pleasure to be here On International Women's Day, and happy International Women's Day to all the amazing young and old Zambian women out there.
Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. So I am a legal practitioner. Been practicing for over 14 years now. Spent most of my career in public service. As you know now, I'm serving in the army. And it's a very, very disciplined, very orderly environment. And when I look at how I was brought up, I grew up in a very strict household. My father especially was very strict on me because I am the first girl in the family, and there's quite a number of girls who come after me. So there was just this responsibility that I had to sort of, be the example. So there was quite a lot of pressure that came with that. So resultantly, I found myself, trying to just be the correct person in the family. So never really sat down to think I want to grow up and become this military person. But when the opportunity came about and I joined the army, I think that upbringing, that order, that discipline sort of made it very easy for me to fit into that very, very, male-dominated environment, and just sort of trying to navigate that space and trying to discover who I was as a leader in that very difficult space inspired me to create the Push Women Network, because I wanted to create a space or an environment where we could create or we could unearth examples of women who are strong, women who are leaders, women who are independent, to be able to inspire the next generation of young trailblazers. So that's about me for now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I really like what you've all said, and what I've picked up is that, firstly, from two perspectives, is that, as people in general, but I think we're focusing on women today, you're a product of your environment. So, Betty spoke about how her parents encouraged her to be saving from a young age, and she's been able to bring up those principles up until today. You as well said, you came from a very strict home, and not realizing it, you've actually ended up in a field where discipline is required. Mm-hmm. But you also spoke about your children, Nachilala, and I like that because you are part of the end product that they'll be, and that you have to actively be instilling some of these principles in them for them to eventually become what we're all aspiring to be today, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we can start the conversation, and the first thing I'm going to ask is, I know that you're all doing fantastic work in your day-to-day jobs, and I think what you've all said is that apart from your day-to-day jobs, you're also doing things outside your day-to-day jobs. What I would like to know is, how is the work that you're doing helping to inspire and empower young women in Zambia? Nachilala?
Okay. So my day job at WWF, closer to the mic, okay. So my day job at WWF inspires and empowers young people with knowledge around environmental management, with knowledge around climate management, and also sustainable development. So part of the work that we do is that we create platforms, training programs, and networking opportunities for young people to gain this knowledge so that they make better informed decisions. We, for example, have a partnership with a youth organization based in Central Province, in the Makushi area, called YEFI. It's called the Young Emerging Farmers Initiative. And what YEFI does is they mobilize young people to become ecological entrepreneurs. They mobilize them to become eco-farmers. So they're involved in a range of food production activities, but as well as sustainable forest management activities. So they're taking charge of the future of their local resources. They are gaining from the training because they're equipped with the knowledge they need to make decisions around their enterprises. But also it means that if there's a national space such as this one, they would be able to articulate from their perspectives how they're impacted by climate change and the actions that are needed to turn around the situation. We also know that a program such as this one raises awareness on important issues, whether it's around gender equality, whether it's around sustainable development or climate. And I think young women are looking for role models. Young women are looking to become prepared for them to take spaces that are ordinarily dominated by men, where they can make decisions to transform their societies, their families, and their organization. So basically, it's the training opportunities we give, it's the awareness opportunities that we give, and a number of challenges that the young people that we work with are given to prepare them to take the decisions that they need to take, whether they're of a financial nature or decisions to do with the interests of the broader community or the nation at large. So, for example, last year when the country engaged around COP26, there are a number of young people that we sponsored as WWF to join the trainings for the Zambian negotiators that were negotiating the climate deal in COP. They were able to bring their own experiences on the ground as to which direction the country is going. Yeah.
What I really love about that is that there's practical ways that you're empowering us, because a lot of the time some of these issues, they end up on paper and they stay as ideas and they're not done practically. So I like that Yefi is actually in Mukoshi on the ground and literally turning these skills into something tangible that young people can use moving forward.
And they're participating in their local economy. It's a small economy, but they're there.
Yes,
and
I love that.
They're on the table.
That's fantastic. Betty, and just to mention again that Betty is a CEO of Fsdz Zambia, and these are the sponsors of this program. Betty, can you tell us a little bit more about how you're inspiring and empowering young people in your field of work?
Sure.
I know a lot there. So
there is a lot there. I'll try to summarize. The most important thing we do is financial education.
Yeah.
So that and we do a lot of that at the grassroots in villages, in rural areas. So that means that young people, particularly young women, their opportunities are few. So we want to open that door. Where can I learn? What can I do? Is insurance for me? Should I join a savings group? How can I save when I don't feel like I don't have any money at all? What are my opportunities? Can I earn money this way? Should I do more than 2 or 3 things, or is it just too distracting? How can I run my small shop and make sure that I don't end up with no money? All of this we do on radio. We do it personally. We do it with written materials and also with mentors. So we find really solid mentors. For example, in Luapula province, there are 2 women chieftainesses. There are advocates for young women, and we say, how do you want to explain the work across the country and across the province on opportunities for young women? So that's the first thing. Second thing that we do is we open the door for these kinds of opportunities. We do a lot of work with savings groups. We do a lot of work with digital finance and with mobile money. And what we're finding is that young women are very often saving money in their mobile money account. These numbers are increasing very, very fast. And that's a great way to keep it aside, not use it until you need it. And I think the other thing that we are very interested in doing is having young women talk to young men and say, look, we want to have a future together if we get married. How are we going to do this together? How are we going to manage our money together? How are you going to save rather than leaving me with that burden? What are we going to invest in together? And recently in Luapula, when we were up there, we found that husbands were actually paying attention and saying, I need to also be saving money, and let's talk about what we can do together. Build a new home. Wire our house for power. These things are really important. If we can do this together, what's the sound of one hand clapping?
I love that, and I'm guessing that a lot of women listening today are quite surprised. Husbands were actually listening. That's actually a thing. That's a thing.
The world is changing.
I'm impressed by that. But I wanted to ask, I know that Fsdz Zambia is doing a lot on the grassroots, and obviously in trying to target women, there's some social norms that do come about, and those are the constraints that are stopping them from being financially free. How have you managed to convince those communities that this is a targeted program for women, and despite the social norms, there's an opportunity for them to actually be contributing to the household?
It's a very interesting question, because our research shows very clearly women hide their money.
Oh.
We also see that men don't save. And so men think that women are using all their spare money on getting their nails done and buying clothes and being flashy. And women think that men will spend their money on drinking and on other women. And so this is results we have from our research. And so what's happening is men suspect that women are keeping extra money because whenever there's an emergency in the family, somehow they come up with something, right? So the next step is saying, encourage the women in your family to save. Recognize that they have a role to play in this. And by the way, you should give them your extra money so they can save it too.
So one of the schools of thought and something that people say in a jokingly way, but obviously is the truth, is that when you're in a relationship, the woman says to the man, your money is our money and my money is my money. So it's probably working somewhere there.
Well, it is, because if you think about what women are responsible for, they're responsible for food.
Yeah.
They're responsible for the bills in the household. They're responsible for education, and they're responsible for any emergency. What's left?
Yeah.
True. Very true.
Colonel, please tell us how you're also doing some inspiration and empowerment in both areas that you work, I suppose, because you've got the army side, but you've also got Push Women as well, that is doing quite a bit in that field as well, I believe.
Yes. So if I speak specifically about the army side, it's a very unconventional field to work in as a woman, and let alone rise to the rank that I've risen to as a colonel in the system. And I hope that this is something that could inspire somebody out there, some of the young women who may not have dreamt of a career in the army or thought it was a preserve of the male folk, that it is something that is not out of reach. It is something that is actually possible. Of course, it's a very challenging space, but really nothing that is worthwhile lacks any sort of meaningful challenge. So it's a great environment for you to sort of harness your leadership capabilities and discover the kind of leader that you are, because it's really just pressure cooker. So that aside, in the other space which I founded, which is the Push Women Network, and just to mention that, this is an organization where we advocate for more women in leadership. We advocate for more women in decision making. And the niche that we have chosen in order to achieve that objective is to speak about the economic emancipation of women, because we believe that when women are financially independent, obviously that gives them access to other forms of empowerment, such as social, political empowerment, obviously economic empowerment as well. And so we're trying to inspire more young women, basically women of all ages, to venture into business and entrepreneurship, income generating projects, and not just sort of starting a business, but learning how to grow a business, how to sustain a business, and how to migrate from a startup to, an MSME into a larger organization. Because what we have found on the ground is that in as much as most of the SMEs in this country, 67% of the SMEs are run by women, are female led. A lot of these are very, very small, sort of household type of businesses, which are not growing, and some of which start and then fell along the way. So through some of the partnerships that we're able to broker as an organization, we are providing the necessary capacity building, the training and the education to women-led businesses and entrepreneurship. And another keystone way in which we're trying to achieve this is through projects such as the Lusaka Business Expo, where we are exposing women to a large network of different organizations, a large array of stakeholders, all the way from government to the banking sector, from the non-profit sector. Women are able to come and interface and have an opportunity to grow their network, learn and capacitate and know how to grow and sustain their business. And of course, this cannot be discussed without talking about money management, financial literacy and financial inclusion. So that's a way in which we are trying to capacitate women to be able to stand up on their own and hopefully remove themselves from situations where they may find themselves vulnerable because they're not financially independent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to circle back to something that you said earlier around your career in the army, something about you that I actually admire quite a bit. I've seen quite a lot of women who are being going into the defense career. And I think it's admirable, because I actually think it's a leapfrog into the world understanding that women can lead. Are there any incentives that are being given to women who are choosing this career path that is predominantly for men, but taking that bold step to be front forward?
No, you have to hack it out just like everybody else.
Equality.
Exactly. Otherwise, I don't think it would give you the kind of respect that you want.
Okay.
If you had it in a different way than everybody else. And also just to run away from that stigma that, the women are coming into the system and they're watering down the training, they're watering down this and that. You have to stand toe to toe with everybody else, the men included. And I think for me, that is the best way to go about it, as opposed to sort of, championing this gender issue as though it is a weakness and therefore I must have some other criteria simply because I am female. But if you want to go in it, you must be able to stand toe to toe with everybody else, and that earns you the respect that you need.
I love that. I like that stance on equality. Now, the theme for Financial Literacy Week this year, like I said in the beginning, the beginning is build your future, be money smart. I really like this theme because it actually reminds me of my own personal journey to financial freedom that I started not far enough, but recently, I suppose. It reminds me of a book. I'm not sure if you've read it. It's called Smart Money Women. And it's basically just tackling issues of, debt, spending habits, and the consumerist culture of African middle class. But also it tackles some of the misconceptions around money and the lack of it, really. So my question to you is, in line with the theme, what role does financial literacy play in securing a woman's future in Zambia, bearing in mind the many challenges that women face in various sectors? So now you can see why I was asking you about that. Betty?
It's really critical. You have to start with how much money do you have, and how do you spend it? I have a book that I carry around, and every single day, everything I spend, my credit card, my debit card, my cash, I write it down. And then I can see, okay, so what am I spending more money on than I really should? That extra coffee, my nails being done once a week rather than once every 3 weeks, my hair. For me, it's a real challenge not to buy art, because I have a lot of Zambian art. So do I really need that other piece of art when I can enjoy it elsewhere? So tracking your money, tracking what you earn, tracking what you spend, and asking yourself, where's my savings in all this? Looking at the risks you have and saying, do I have insurance? Insurance now, you can buy micro insurance for your small micro enterprise for 5 kwacha a day. It's really cheap. So if you're in the shop and it gets burned down, somebody breaks in and steals your things, you're in trouble. So making sure you're managing your risk, making sure you know how much you earn and how you spend it, making sure you put aside money to save. The rule of thumb for saving is at least 10% of what you're earning after you pay taxes. And if you aren't saving that, you don't have a buffer in case something happens, in case you want to buy that bicycle, in case you want to purchase a dress so you can go to an interview. These things become very, very important in life. So paying attention, we have an example. We're now broadcasting a program on digital finance called Bank Yako Yako in local radio, local community radios in local languages. And it's a show about a family, has urban and rural people, and how they're learning and the mistakes they're making with their money and with digital finance. So please do listen. There are 13 episodes. We're just starting to broadcast now.
I love that. And I think I need to emphasize on that tip that you snuck in there for our viewers and listeners. Tracking your money is very important. And Betty said one of the practical ways you can do it is by carrying a book around and literally putting down in that book everything that you've spent. So I think there's several ways of doing that. These days, you know, us millennials, we'll put that down on our phone. But I think that the key there is that you need to basically put down everything that you're spending. But what I like most about what you said is to analyze then your financials and ask the hard questions. Do I really need to spend on this? And then see what you can be saving up on. And then don't forget the last thing she said. I know it's been said a lot. 10% after tax should be your savings. I just wanted to find out, when does Bank Yako Yako start and when is it going to be?
It started this week, broadcasting in Northern Province.
Wow.
And we're broadcasting Northern Copperbelt, the Bemba areas now. And it will be rolling out in a week-by-week, month-by-month program. So keep your eyes open. There are advertisements, including on Hot FM.
We'll keep our eyes peeled. Nachilala?
Okay, so financial literacy. They say education is an equalizer, but I can tell you financial literacy is a greater equalizer. So what does that mean? It means that as a young woman that has financial literacy or financial education, they don't only have a good understanding in terms of how to manage their money and budget. They don't only know how to perhaps save, right? But they tend to understand how best to respond to opportunities for them to earn an income, expand their income, and also avoid poor investment decisions. As women, I think we're very vulnerable in our society and maybe globally to all kinds of financial scams. So if you have some level of financial education, then you do the risk management that is needed for you to assess opportunities and make the decisions that will help you build your income, build your resources. It may be slow, but in a more secure way. So it means that when you have financial literacy, it means you're taking charge of your life and you're working towards a more financially secure a future. You talked about financial freedom. I think as women, it's imperative that all of us have to take the steps in a deliberate way, recording our expenses, looking for opportunities to save, looking for opportunities for us to reduce our expenditures, but also being smart enough to know for expenditure X, is it an investment expense or is it a consumption expense?
Yeah.
And if you find that 90% of what you spend your money on monthly is just about hair, nails, and so on, then you are not taking the steps towards being in charge of your financial future. And that means that you become so vulnerable to the vagaries and the hazards of poverty, whether it's long-term poverty or seasonal poverty. We're lucky that there's so much information, and I think women, our young women, women in general and young women, I would encourage to go out there, look for the information from Fsdz, from other sources, so that you are equipped to have the information to make the decisions. Every day we're making financial decisions, right? You may not realize that when you make a decision to either go and, maybe get a shawarma versus go to Manda here to get a meal, that's a financial decision. Yeah, how can it be better? How can it be more astute so that you are in a position for you to even have that lunch from the 1st of the month to the 30th of the month.
Okay. I mean, I do like what you said, because sometimes I think these days there's so many investment opportunities, and I think we're in an environment where there's just this need for cash, right? So you're thinking, I need to make the best decision and get it out in the quickest possible way. I think sometimes in our society, when we look at women like you, we do aspire to be like you, but there's a good chunk that don't know any better. So I'd like to ask Colonel, how can financial education actually help young women in Zambia become financially capable and prosper like yourselves? And just keep in mind that, obviously a lot of women, they don't have the opportunity to education, to exposure, and when they see nice things, we call it nice things, nails, hair, a nice bag, it immediately looks attractive to them, a lot more attractive than saying, let me buy insurance or let me put money aside for the future. So if you can just touch on that out, that would be great.
I like what Nachila said, that, financial literacy is an even greater equalizer.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, because we're talking about money, but then we're also talking about access. We're talking about your ability to be independent, to be in control. Okay, to remove yourself from vulnerable situations as a young woman. It could be exposure to unhealthy relationships, whether in the work environment or in your personal environment, because you do not have control, you do not have stability in your income or earning capacity, so you expose yourself to certain situations which are not particularly healthy for you as a young woman, because you want access to something that maybe is being dangled in front of you in a less than ethical way, if you know what I mean. But if you are exposed and you are financially literate, you know that I need to save, and you know that you need to invest, and then you know also that it is a process. You cannot look at somebody like Nachila or Betty and say, I want to get there today. It's a process, and it's a process of continuous learning. So you have to expose yourself to environments where you are able to get that kind of information. And information is everywhere. It's at a touch of a button. You can read, buy books, expose yourselves to programs like this. The organizations like Fsdz, which are providing education as well. Push also is providing exposure to mentors, mentorship programs where you can gain the right access and also have the, rub shoulders with the right role models who will be able to instill in you the correct values of how you should manage your money and how you should operate really as a woman, as a young girl, as a human being in society. So for me, it's a conversation about money, but it's also a life conversation about who you are, about how you stand up in society, how you represent yourself, and if you're able to manage your money, you have a seat at the table, you have a say, and you have a voice, and you also have access, and that is very important.
What I like about what you've all said, so it's not about going to university and getting this finance degree. It's about doing small things every day and changing your lifestyle habits in order for you to be furnished with information and knowledge that will help you to make better financial decisions. So, and I like that, because I think that sometimes you just don't know any better and you've never learned it. So with that said, I also would like to know about some of the challenges, because I think really what people want to know is how they can tackle these challenges, and if there's any opportunities that you have mentioned already. One of the questions that I do like to ask people is, if you could give your younger self advice on some of these financial challenges that you think some of us may be facing today, what would they be? Betty?
Save more. Borrow less.
Save more, borrow less.
Don't give money to people who ask unless you're sure that they're going to use it effectively. One of the challenges in Zambia and around the world is that you always have a friend who's out of money.
Yeah.
And you have relatives that say, my brother died, my cousin's sick. There's always reasons. What we found in our office was that people were in trouble because so many of their family and other members were asking for money in circumstances where it was very difficult to say no. So we had a pastor who advises us come in and talk about how to say no. And his answer was, you have a budget. In your budget, you put a line item called money we need to give to people who are in trouble.
Yeah.
When you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
And when people ask, give them less. If you give them something, they will be okay. If you give them less, they'll be cranky, but they will receive something. And at the end of the money, don't give any more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the advice. And the other thing I would think of is find the mentors around you who are really good about money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The women. My mom was great. I don't know how she raised 4 kids on the money we had. But she did, and she did it by being very, very careful. Saving more, borrowing less, having goals about how she wanted to use money when she had it.
I like that, because that's a tip for black tax, actually, because a lot of the time when I go to some of these financial talks, that's the question that comes up, to say I would like to save. I really would like to save that 10%. But listen, my brother needs to go to school. I need to pay for bills for my grandfather in the village, and the money that I'm getting is just not enough. So the point is, have align, and then when that's done, it's done. Easier said than done.
Let me tell you a quick story on that one, which will embarrass everyone in the room. We started working with savings groups in Luapula province with women. This is a province where 80% of the population lives under the poverty line. 58,000 people, including probably 50,000 women, formed savings groups. They saved 17 million kwacha. How'd they do it? Here's a kwacha here. Here's a kwacha there. Here's 50 paisa there. They found the money. In places like Bangladesh, where you have people who are living on the street, they save with a handful of rice that they didn't eat.
Yeah.
So in Zambia, if 80% of the population of Luapula can save 17 million kwacha, I'm embarrassed to say I can't save.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, if you get your small pocket money from your parents, you should save something of it
Yeah.
and put it in a place where you can't get it later.
That's important. Nachilala, what would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self? I think that being around, I'll just buttress the point about the role of mentors. Being around people, women especially, who are organized and are planners around their money. My mother, coincidentally, was also very good. She was just a teacher, but she was able to raise 6 kids and who have become financially independent, all of us. And how did she do that? She used to plan, and she used to ensure that she did not depend only on her teacher's salary. Okay, she had other multiple streams of income. These multiple streams of income, also a big lesson there, were not like millions. She was making millions a month. No, she was aggregating the different revenues that she was making from the smaller enterprises that were complementing her teacher's salary. Okay. I also want to speak to my older sister, who's also an entrepreneur. I remember when I got my first job, and I'd like the young woman who's sitting here to listen to this. I was excited. I was traveling around the world, and every time I'd go out, because I saw that a bit of that from my parents, where they took care of the extended family, right? So I'd get gifts for everyone in my family, literally every time I traveled. And I would be traveling every maybe month or every 2 months. And my older sister, Mutinta, said to me, next time you come back, don't buy us gifts. Save that money.
Yeah.
You know, don't buy us gifts. Save that money. You need that important voice that gives you that that feedback, because you may be doing it from, you know, a place of goodness, you know, the black tasks, or helping several funerals and so on, because you are better off being financially stronger for yourself and your community when you save than when you're just spending your money around. So I really emphasize the aspect of being deliberate in finding these mentors, having the access, because we need to learn from people who've done it before.
Yeah.
Right? If you're learning from somebody who's not clear, who's disorganized around their monies, you can bet you are going to be in the same state as them. So let's be intentional as women, as young women. I think it's very important. If you don't have that person who's going to give you the tools and tips in terms of how to manage your money, and no money is little if you're saving, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're getting 2,000 kwacha, if you save that 200, those 200s times 12 will put you in a better place after 12 months than if you don't set aside that money.
Yeah. I really like that. And you've touched on something that's quite important these days, which is multiple streams of income. And I think I would even like to emphasize that, because it's something that I've been thinking about as a young woman, to say, how else can I make money apart from my 8 to sometimes 5, 6, 7 o'clock job? I think it's really important that we start to look at our hands and our feet and see what more we can do to make some money, just in case, you know, that rainy day comes, you have somewhere else to look. So I like that. So we're going to ask Betty to make some space for our special guest.
Okay. Am I moving to that side, or?
So what we'll do is she'll come and sit where you're sitting, and when she's done,
Okay.
yeah.
Excuse me.
So I did mention that we'll have a special guest. I'll allow her to introduce herself. She is a school leaver. She's just finished grade 12, And the reason why we've put on the show is so that she can ask these ladies questions and also gain some knowledge and give us a perspective from that seat. And don't be shy. Go on, introduce yourself.
Okay, pleasure to be here. My name is Rumbizai Kamanga, and hearing from the financial matters, I think financial literacy is very important. What is financial literacy? Is the ability to have knowledge on financial skills and to have the knowledge on how to save, to borrow money, and how can we get these skills? We can read, as young women, we can read podcasts, we can listen to you people as financial managers and professional people, where we can get the best knowledge of finance and everything. I would also like to encourage schools to build on financial literacy, because in high school, we only have a subject as accounts, which doesn't talk much about financial literacy. So if we have financial literacy as a topic which is formally taught, we can also leave school having full knowledge on how to save money without listening to other people, without listening how to save money from other people socially. Like when a friend comes up to me and they just say, oh, this is how I make my money. So if we have it formally, every student and every person, every young woman would know how to manage their money and their finances. And also, I would also like to encourage parents to have a layback on their children's finances. So if a child comes up to you and say, oh, as I, a young woman, would go to my mom and say, Mom, I would like to do my nails, she should also be able to ask me to say, have you saved your own money? Do I always have to be there for you to make sure that you save your own money? So I also feel that when we are taught, we won't be able to go to our parents and ask them for money, because we have the knowledge on how to save the money. Thank you.
I like that, Rumbi. So basically, you're also urging the education system to start being a little bit more practical in the ways that they're teaching you about money.
Yes.
It's not just about that balance sheet. It's about what habits can you take going into university that will help you manage your funds. Do you have any questions for our panelists today? And please ask them hard questions, because we want to know the hard stuff, right?
Okay.
It's the right table.
Okay, so since you have all the knowledge about financial literacy and everything, how do you manage your financial problems different from any other Zambian who doesn't have the knowledge about it?
Well, maybe we can speak for ourselves.
Okay.
We try to apply some of the principles that we've talked about in terms of trying to live within our means, right? And not trying to basically use all the income we are making in a month, okay? So we practice the saving. It sounds like a basic idea, but it's an important one. In my professional, my career, or perhaps women my age, we also go out and seek out information on financial products that are there, okay? Is it better for me to put my money, my savings in a fixed deposit account? Is it a good time now to put my money in a treasury bill or a bond? How much money am I going to make there? And also, what's happening in the market, right? Is there an opportunity for me to invest in a project or an enterprise that is going to give me money? And I have to assess, like we said before, you just don't throw money at a project. You need to know whether there's security there. Okay, is there going to be security or not? I know that in the last couple of years, there has been an emergence of this concept around village banking, where women have found through their social capital means for them to come together and to save together. For some women, that has worked well, but it's in those savings groups or village banking groups where the rules are very clear and where there's some governance and accountability. For some groups where that aspect has been weak, a lot of women have cried, right? A lot of women have cried because some of the people that they partner with, I think the Colonel talked about for us to, this is also being about life education. How are we managing relationships at home and at work?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we have positive, empowering relationships? So we're very careful. We know who, we bring close. We know who we have to learn from. We know who we have to co-invest with. Okay, if you're co-investing with a partner who does not see you as an equal, then it means that that investment is going to be in trouble. It means that there's going to be vulnerability around that. I also just want to agree with you on your earlier point that in Zambia we start too late in terms of providing the financial education and financial literacy that would help somebody, whether they finish school in grade 7 or they don't continue school after grade 9 or grade 12. And so if I was the Minister of Education, I'd be looking for somebody like Betty. Whatever you're doing in Luapula in the communities, how do we integrate it within our primary education curriculum, within our secondary education curriculum? Because it just gives that exposure, that awareness to understand how money works and how to save, how the market works, how not to get cheated, and make the better decisions for yourselves and for a more secure future.
Yeah. I like that. Would you like to chime in?
Yeah, yes. I think basically covered everything. But what I can say is that it's never too early. You're never too young for you to start cultivating a healthy relationship with money. I can give you an example. I'm sure you've been in a grocery store or wherever, and you see a little kid throwing a tantrum because he wants that toy. He wants the toy and he starts, throwing a tantrum. Even at that age, you can teach a child that money is something that you work for. It's something that you earn. You don't have to throw a tantrum because you want something that you haven't earned, something that you don't necessarily need at that particular time. So you start cultivating those principles. Okay, make your bed. Okay, go and make your bed, then you earn something. Go and wash the car, then you earn something. So that way you start cultivating that thinking, even in children, as they're growing up, that money is a relationship. And for you to grow your money, you have to earn it. You have to work for your money. So like what you said, it starts a little bit too late in our society, that after you're done with school, that's when you start thinking. I don't know if it happens when you're done with school, when you are done with uni and you start working. Okay, that's when you start really thinking about your relationship with money. But you're never too young to start thinking about how you can invest. In my environment, I'm working in a pensionable job. So we always say now, because we've learned from our elders or our superiors, that you need to start planning for your retirement day one when you start working. Because you can start thinking that I'm so young, I still have a lot of time to serve. I can start saving later. Okay, but you don't realize that you start saving and thinking about your nest egg the first day that you start your job. Because when you're still young and you're still energetic, your most productive years of your life, that's when you start thinking about putting away something that you're going to rely on in your older age, when you're not as energetic as you are when you are young. So basically it's something that you need to cultivate, and it's a relationship that keeps growing. So when you asked do we save differently now because we have some of this knowledge and this exposure in financial management? Definitely yes, we do, but it's an ongoing process. You're always learning and you're always upskilling and learning how to better invest and save and grow your money as well. Yeah.
So Rumbi, we do want to thank you, but I hope you've gotten a few tips from them. So it's about starting small and also you contributing to your parents when they're asking you certain things, right?
Yes.
Not everyday money for cinema. Some days, mommy, daddy, I'll make my bed, clean the car, wash the dishes, and please keep that money. And next time I want to go to the cinema, I'll use that money, not the money from your mommy's pocket, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will ask Betty to come back. Our lines are about to open, and we also just want to urge the viewers and the listeners that if you do have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section on our social media pages, both Diamond TV and Hot FM. Yeah, sure. Thanks.
I want to tell you that people are paying attention to the question of how do we get financial education into the schools. We have been working with, under financing from FCDO and CETA, we have been working with the government, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, with a number of other partners, including GIZ. We've developed and have tested financial education for the national curriculum grades 8 to 12. We've tested in 20 schools. We're redrafting, and we will be rolling this out to over 200 schools. In addition, we also have materials getting ready for grades 1 to 7. Those are a little more complicated because they have to be translated. But by next year, you're going to see those in the schools as well. So the government heard you, the donors heard you, we heard you, and this is online.
Thank you. I love that. When you say translated, you mean translated into the local languages, right?
Yes,
okay,
I do.
Perfect. So the lines are open now, and you feel free to call in, ask our panelists any question that you think is appropriate to this conversation, and also feel free to leave any questions on our social media pages. The lines are 0974 870877, 0974 870877. We also have 096. Okay, we have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you? Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day to you too.
Yep. I've got a few things to suggest.
Go on, to suggest.
What I think we need to focus on is how we can also access money from the financial sector, because that is the part that has been missing. And the biggest challenge is that we have not been taught how we can access funds at an early stage of the business, or what we need to do at the earliest point once we start the business, what we need to begin to put things in place so that when we need the money from the bank, it becomes easier. So there are steps that need to be taken, and I think we need to begin to look at such kind of steps, what we need to do with this point and that point and that point.
Okay, great. So basically your suggestion is that we need to look at steps for small enterprises to access finances?
Yes. What they need to begin doing from the first day you just say, I'm beginning my business. They need to start putting things in place so that such a time, whether 2, 3, 4 years in the future, when it comes, when they will need big finances, it will be easier for them to get the money.
Okay, great. I'll ask our panelists to make some comments on that. So I think there's two aspects. He's talking about access itself, but it also sounds to me like there's an awareness thing that needs to be tackled here.
Okay. So maybe just a few things that a small business should start building for them to be able to access money from the formal financial system. I think we know that there are certain basic requirements for the financial institution to relate with you. So formalization, I think, is important. You need to have your registration at PACRA. You need to have your registration at ZRIA.
Before we finish on that one, should we take this call and then we can tackle both at the same time?
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Hi, everyone. Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.
I'm enjoying the show, though I was up and down, but I've heard one or two things.
Okay.
I have a big challenge of saving. That one I've been trying, but it's embarrassing because I've got that mentality of shipwreck.
Okay. So
so I'm learning, but I really need help.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
We'll tackle that one as well. So she would like you to also make some comments on savings. I know we did touch upon that earlier in the show, but I think it's such an important one that we can actually speak about it again. So Nachlala, I think you can carry on the access and awareness to finances as a small business, and then we can hear more about the savings. And she says she's trying, but she's got the attitude of shipe. So if she can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe coming back to the first question, I think for any small business, you need to have a vision, a plan, and an ambition. And if you want to be able to grow, you need to find some investment capital somewhere. Okay, the bank could be one of the sources, but you could also look at a number of existing SME development funds that exists. These may be supported by donors, by foundations, by even private companies through their CSR programs. But for these institutions to partner with you, you need to have formal registration, and some of the formal registration you need to have includes registration at PACRA, and you need to be able to build a track record of even filing in your returns. You need to have registration at ZRA, and it gives a bank comfort in terms of who they are dealing with. You also may need to look for financial products that will help you deal with the problem of collateral, for example. Again, there are certain institutions that will come in and guarantee your loan if they are convinced that you have a business plan, a good business idea, and with a good market. Within the banking system, there's something that's called trade finance, and usually it's funding that is made available to businesses who have secured work or contracts. And so when you go and ask for the money, and if you do the financial education bit is you need to do the numbers, right? And if you borrow that money, you look at the repayment period. Are you going to have made a profit, or would you have just done a transaction?
Yeah.
And your balance is not different. And if you would have just done a transaction, you say to yourself, well, you're building experience, perhaps for you to be a player in that particular sector. And if you're making money out of it, I think there's ways in which a financial institution has confidence in you if you have a reliable market versus maybe just growing whatever. You're growing your pineapples and you don't know where your pineapples are going to go. So really building relationship with market actors, market players, institutions that can buy what you produce and use them to guarantee you, to sponsor you as you go out to look for financial resources. I think this is what I can say as some of the steps that need to be done to prepare yourself. You need to have audited books. You need to have up-to-date financial records. Betty told us about how she keeps her own personal financial record in terms of incomes and expenditures. So we need to do that as small businesses.
So before Betty and Mizukanji just tell us about the savings part, we have got another caller coming in. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm following the show very well. My name is Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
Okay, great. So I would just like to just a quick reaction from just the last speaker. Somebody talked about accessing finance and trying to build a business. How are you people going to access these funds, and how are you going to build a business? I think from my perspective, the money is easily accessible. People are always there to give this money. But most of the businesses that we have in the country at the moment, I think we have a lot of youths, a lot of women, but most of the businesses require a lot of mentoring and nurturing right from the beginning. Okay? Because you can't access funds if you're going to just tell me, look, I want to sell eggs. How are you going to sell these eggs? Where's your market? You know what I mean? What is your strategy? What is your plan? So even before we get to the stage of accessing these funds, we need a lot of mentoring sessions for these young people, a lot of young people, right from starting from how they carry themselves, how they look at business, what it's going to do for them, how they're going to manage the business. Is it going to be a short-term business, long-term? how long are they going to hang on to this business? Most of the people are there and they're willing to give these funds, but they need bankable projects. And I think it starts from there. A good example would be some of these seed starter programs that we have. I think there are a lot of seed starter programs that are happening, I think, in the country, but they're not touching each and every person. You can only access these via the internet. If we can have people that are foot soldiering in these various households, communities, and telling people about these programs, we would definitely have a very vibrant and fruitful future, business-wise, for women.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
Yes, all right.
Thank you. That was great contribution. So actually what I like is that we're having men calling, and a lot of the time when it comes to women's programs or International Women's Day, it sounds like it's only a women's thing, but I do like the fact that Anthony and other men are calling in to give in contributions and see how we can work together. So Anthony, what you said is very true, and I think Betty did touch upon the fact that Fsdz Zambia have been engaging in a number of mentorship programs because they can see the importance for it. But just circling back to the question on savings, are you able to give a few tips? And I know Betty had a good one on savings as well.
It's just discipline. I just got a sense that there was some sort of almost like a nonchalant type of way that the question was asked, like Betty said, decide that you should put away a percentage of your income, deprive yourself of certain things that are not absolute necessities in your life, and put away something every month. You are earning an income. If you're able to earn an income, it means that there's something that you can stash away. And the other thing that I can say is that sometimes as your income is growing, even your spending somehow starts to grow, where meanwhile you're able to survive, for instance, on 2,000 kwacha a month and even put away something, then you're earning 10,000, and then suddenly you can't save because now your life has become so lavish and flashy, and there are all these necessities which are not necessarily absolute needs in your life. So it's really about sacrifice, focus, and having a purpose and a plan for your money as well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. It's a lot to do with discipline, right? I'm not going to do this because I'm saving this amount this month and just have a target. Sorry, can we take another caller just before you chime in? Good morning.
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 How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good, thanks. Is this Hot FM?
This is Hot FM.
Oh, okay. Now, I have been following the program, and I just wanted to say I want to give you a big thumbs up for the job you're doing, you guys. And I like the interview as well. Those ladies seem to be well educated, and please keep up the job. And this should also extend to the boys as well, not just the women. Even the boys need to be taught how to save money so that they can make their women happy in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. So Fsdz Zambia, you heard that. They loved the show. Do it again. Obviously in collaboration with Hot FM. Betty, any comments on the savings part?
Yeah, the Bank of Zambia was great about this. The governor and the deputy governor for administration, who's responsible for gender work, they both said the same thing. Pay yourself first. When you get paid, don't go out and have drinks. Sit down and say, how much did I say I was going to save of this? Where am I going to put it? In my savings, since for the last probably 10 years, I give my money to my brother, who's my financial advisor. And he made that money grow because he was smart about investments. And by him having it, I can't touch it.
Yeah.
So have a partner who helps you in the savings process. Whether it's somebody who's a friend of yours and you save together, whether it's somebody who keeps your money for you. If you're husband and wife, can you work on savings together and save for results together so you both have to sign before money comes out? So that's what I would suggest.
You've had a few dimes. I think we should hashtag that. Pay yourself first. We have another
I
caller.
want to chime in also
Okay, sure.
on that. I think that one way the lady that called could sort of stem this pressure to spend is have goals. Okay, have financial goals that are short term, that are medium term, that are long term. So if my financial goal is to reduce my expenditure on rent, for example, I want to build my own house and I want to become independent in that respect. I need to identify the steps that I need to make, the cuts that I need to make for me to be able to build up the savings.
Yeah.
For me to be able to afford a house,
Yeah.
For example. If you don't have a big goal that even scares you, financial goal, then there will be nothing to focus you, to direct you, to stop you from going out to eat every day.
Right. We've got another caller. Good morning.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Is this Hot FM?
This is Hot FM.
Okay. I wanted to ask a question.
Oh, please feel free.
Huh?
Feel free to ask a question. Okay, we lost her. I did see her calling about 3 times, so I hope her questions were there.
Sorry.
Shame.
So yes, please do carry on.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take your children to the best schools, for example, you need to know where you're going to cut. It has to be an intentional goal, right? And once you have that goal that you're committed to, perhaps the struggle to not save will be reduced.
Yeah. Good morning. This is Hot FM. Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, my question was, in what way can we take advantage of borrowing while still cultivating a healthy relationship with money?
In what way can we take advantage of borrowing for us to cultivate a healthy relationship with money?
While still cultivating a healthy relationship with money.
Okay, excellent question. Thank you.
Okay.
Betty, do you want to take that one up?
Tear up your credit cards. That's the first one. The second is put your debit card away and only use it when you really need it or when it's part of the plan. The third thing is borrow for things you really need. Do you really need that brand new car that you're going to be paying off for 5 years? Or would you be much better off borrowing for a mortgage, for land, which is an asset that you can actually save for and use? If you can save for it instead, you're better off because you're paying yourself. If you borrow for it, you're paying the bank.
Yeah. Sorry, we have one more caller and then we can. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. This is Hot FM.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself, sir?
Fine. My name is Clarence.
Hi, Clarence.
Hi.
What questions do you have for the panelists this morning?
I've been following the discussion and it's quite insightful. We are running a youth organization called the Zambian Empowerment Hub for Entrepreneurship and Skills Training. So we are excited to hear about financial lessons. I think that is missing in many of our people, young people, especially. So I know the country director for WWF there has been doing a lot in helping ourselves and other young people when it comes to empowerment programs. But how can we collaborate with Betty and the other lady from, is it Push Women?
Sure.
Because we do organize entrepreneurship and empowerment symposiums as well in communities, and also access to funding, because you know these trainings require funding.
Yeah.
So we need to collaborate so that we can ensure that we do mentorship programs, especially in the rural areas where most people are living in abject poverty.
Okay. Thank you so much for that fantastic question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I did speak about the fact that we're sort of venturing into empowering female-led businesses, entrepreneurs, etc., through the vehicle of the Lusaka Business Expo, which is not just an event, but really a platform that is intended to create impact within the communities. So what we do is that we actually collaborate with, the technocrats, the people who are in the field, the people who have a database of, eligible women who fit the criteria, who can benefit from some of the grants that we give through the partnerships that we've brokered with our various partners. So what we've done is, for instance, we work with an organization called Musika. We also are able to access a database from ZDA and CEEC to know which particular companies would be eligible to receive the support that we are able to give through our organization. So if I think that we can definitely find synergies between what he's doing and what we're doing, I would encourage him to get in touch with us. Just send an email to admin@pushwomennetwork.com. That's admin@pushwomennetwork.com, and then we'll be able to see how we can move forward from there.
Okay, great. So that was admin@pushwomen.com.
Pushwomennetwork.com.
Pushwomennetwork.com.
Fsdz Zambia has a lot of materials available on our website. We also do a variety of different activities with a number of different organizations. Our pitch on getting started, especially in poor households, is save a little first, join a savings group, or watch one that is in operation in your area. Find out more about them. All of this stuff is free. Then savings groups, instead of going to the bank, you're saving and you're borrowing from each other. And you're also paying interest to each other. And usually in savings groups, the first year people are saving, they're earning something, and they are eating better, and they're paying school fees. And in the second circular of this type of organization, people are trusting. You can see how they're using their money, and you start a business yourself. And then you're talking to each other and saying, how is your business working? What are you doing? What are you learning? And we also provide financial education by cell phone and by individual support by people who are working with the savings groups. So our suggestion at the bottom end, that's really the right way to go. For here, when you're talking about youths who have some resources, you better be saving them, because as soon as you get ready to start a business, like Bill Gates started in his parents' garage with his own money, he worked delivering food. And so you need to be figuring out, how are you going to capitalize this first? And then once you get things moving, if you're having trouble with the business, there's now software available easily. You can use your simple cell phone to keep track of the money in your business, keep track of your sales, keep track of what you spend. So it's all really about keeping track of things. And so if you want to reach us, same story, info@fsdzzambia.org, and we can give you advice or information as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're coming to the end of our program, and I would just like for you to give some closing remarks, last bits of advice, and give us something practical, something we can take home with.
Boundaries. I think that people who are always asking for money or asking for favors, they don't have a full stop. They don't have boundaries. So as a person who is in a position to give or contribute something, you must have boundaries. Otherwise, you will never ever be able to grow your money and achieve your financial goals. So it's important to have boundaries.
Thank you.
Well, I think savings is number one. So let's learn to deprive ourselves sometimes. If we can learn to deprive ourselves, if we can learn to be intentional, we are going to be financially secure. So if I can go to Livingstone on a bus and I'm not rushing for anything, why should I fly?
Yeah.
So be intentional and learn to deprive yourself.
Betty?
Thanks. I think the best advice I can give you is keep learning.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the people who you see are successful. Ask them how. And don't be shy, by the way. Especially young women. You tend to be a little hesitant. You're shy, conservative. Go ahead, step up, ask the questions. That's the way we all learn everywhere and how we can do it best.
Thank you. And thank you so much to our panelists. So the last bit of advice was boundaries. Watch out for those boundaries and people will never stop asking. So you need to build your own boundaries so people don't cross them. The second one is that we should be intentional, and that deprive yourself a little, save the little that you have. And the last is to keep learning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've all learned a lot. This program again was brought to you by Fsdz Zambia, and we look forward to hearing from you ladies again.
Thank you for
so
having
much
us.
for
Thank you so much for having
It
us.
was fun.
Oh my lordy.
Well done, madam.
Really well done.
Yeah.